Hey there, Hotshot! You look like you're ready to race. Okay, no, that was silly. But in all seriousness, hello everyone and welcome back to another review. First of all, I just want to start off by saying a huge thank you to all the support with the first review, like the support that you guys have shown and the ongoing support. Again, go back if you haven't already and watched it. I'll probably be referencing it a few times in this one. Again, it was the very first review, but again, massive appreciation to all the love you guys have shown to that first review. Again, it was a nerve-wracking and new thing for me to want to try out for the channel, but you guys showed me that it did really well and that, yeah, I want to do more, so let's do more. But yeah, I could not be more grateful for the ongoing support that you guys are still showing that first review. And again, if you haven't already, go watch it. What are you doing? Watch that review, come on. And then come back on over to this one. But today, yes, we've got another review, a very different one. The last one was a more complex game. I showed a bit more of my gaming knowledge. Whereas with this review, hopefully, it should be a bit more simple. We're going to be looking at a racing game. Racing games aren't too complicated to look into, so yeah, it's a bit more of a simple review. In terms of actual feedback I got in the last review, I actually want to mention a comment. I didn't get to read the whole thing. I don't know why. YouTube wouldn't let me read the entire comment. It was really annoying. But it was left by, I want to say Jahari or J-Hair, J-H-A-R-E. I don't know if that's like Jahari or J-Hair. But yeah, I got your comment, dude, about having a pop filter. Rookie mistake, I know. I didn't have a pop filter in the last review. I tried to fix it by tweaking the audio in little bits. It was just the excitement of getting all my equipment and being able to film the first review finally that just made me rush ahead and record it the way I did. However, now, take a look at this. Microphone's all pop filtered up, ready to go. So here's hoping that Jahari J, again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name. Here's hoping the audio sounds a lot better. And again, yeah, I don't know why YouTube wouldn't let me read your entire comment, man. Like this, or woman, I don't know. But yeah, like, I really don't know why YouTube wouldn't let me read your entire comment. But I appreciate the advice nonetheless. And as you can see, I took it. I took the advice. Got myself a pop filter. So here's hoping that the audio sounds a lot cleaner. But anyway, onto the subject matter at hand. The game I'll be reviewing today. So, sit back, relax, make yourself comfortable, grab your snack, beverage, whatever you want, as today I will be looking at
Hotshot Racing!
Well, on that note, let's get started! Hotshot Racing is an arcade-style racer that, although developed on modern hardware by the likes of Lucky Mountain Games and Sumo Digital, attempts to harken back to the old-style graphics and gameplay of retro arcade racers. You may know these such as Daytona USA, Sega Rally, or the PS1 Gran Turismo and Ridge Racer games. Yes, this game was released in August 2020, but it looks and feels like playing a game that was launched back in the 90s arcades, as you drive through these low polygonal worlds, looking at low polygonal cars on some very drift heavy, twisted, bendy, roady tracks, and listening to some retro style, yet high quality music. This game aims to tickle the nostalgia boner of those who grew up playing these old style arcade racers. And well, during this gaming age, we're seeing sort of a retro resurgence in recent years. I mean, what with remakes, remasters, but more importantly on the indie game scene, as you have games like Shovel Knight that brought back platformers, 2D platformers, and what with games like Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night that brought back Metroidvanias. Safe to say, the racing game demographic could also use their own retro style comeback, if you will. Gaming has come a long way, and although there's always going to be new, more technologically advanced games that really push the genre forward, take for example Need for Speed. Those games get better looking every year, but still play sort of old fashioned. it's safe to say there is a nostalgia for these sorts of graphics and this sort of gameplay. So it's actually kind of cool to see racing game fans get a game that's catered towards their more nostalgic times. However though, there is also a merit to this game for newcomers as well. How? Well, let's break it down. So for starters, let's talk graphics. Now, looking at the footage in front of you, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't think this game was made or came out in 2020. In fact, you may currently be sitting there thinking, yeah, you know what, man? What the heck? This game looks kind of crap. Nah, man, I ain't playing this. Well, if you're in that mindset, then let me politely but firmly tell you, stop! Just stop thinking like that, just for a second, please. Please do not let this game's art style put you off. You heard me correctly, I said art style. Like I said in the first section, Hotshot Racing is harkening back to classic arcade racers, and this is most definitely true in the graphics department. The devs here made everything from the cars, the characters, the environments you race through look as low polygonal as possible. Now, that's not to say they didn't have the hardware or the capabilities of making really high detailed graphics. No, not at all. They were trying to make the game look as retro as the games of old that, again, they're harkening back to. And you know what? I think it freaking works, man. Yes, there are a lot of realistic looking arcade racers. Again, I mentioned Need for Speed, right? You can play those, they have good visuals. However, you cannot go and shit all over this game's visuals just because of the graphical style that it's aimed for, and more importantly, who that graphical style is aimed towards. If you don't have nostalgia for those sorts of racing games, then that's okay, but don't go hating on this game for the people that do. And as I stated in the first section of the game, there's a lot of nostalgia for these graphics now. What, don't believe me? Let's take a look at some modern games that also do similar things to this. For example, you can unlock a retro skin in Crash Bandicoot 4. What, don't believe me? It's also in Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled as well. Or take this, yeah? In Mario Odyssey, you can literally get a skin that makes Mario look like his model from Mario 64. Again, these are all modern games, but they do throw in their old school 90s appreciation as well, for the classics. And people do really like the classics. See, Hotshot Racing is no exception from this. The only thing is that the entire game looks like it was from the 90s. And you know what? Again, I really like that. Nowadays, speaking as a video game collector myself, I see a mixture of old graphics, new graphics, all the time. And although, yeah, the new modern stuff, again, is technologically impressive and looks stunning, again, you've got to appreciate the classics. And I think Hotshot Racing really nails that old style look. Other advantages as well, I think it's really nice and colourful. The colours pop on the environments and the cars as you race. It is truly nice to look at. Now, I'm not saying you can't dislike the art style in any way. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But again, I just wanted you to go in with an understanding as to why the game looks the way it does before you go and say that it's a bad game, right? Like I said, it's an art style. Art is art. It can be viewed in many different ways. So again, this is the art style that the developers chose and that some people like. And I've got to say, I'm right there with them. I like this art style too. But in terms of performance, this graphical style actually works hand in hand with that as well. You see, I found that the game ran really smoothly. And if you look on the requirements for the PC version of the game, granted this is a game coming out in 2020, they're not even that high. It is very easy for anyone to run this game. Now personally, the footage you're seeing and the version I played was on the Xbox Series X. I'll touch more on that when I go into where you can get this game, you know, that section of the video. But I have no doubt in my mind that my PC could run this game as well, and given the opportunity, I probably would have got it on there. But when I played on Series X, it was also fantastic as well. I played it on my first playthrough in 4K 60 FPS, and then when I went back to record it, I recorded it in a lovely 1080p 60 FPS. I stated reasons as to why I can't capture my footage in 4K in the first review, so you have to go back and see that review to understand why my footage is in 1080p 60. But again, it's a very lovely 1080p 60. But not only that, this game also has a multi-platform release. I mentioned PC earlier, but you can also get this game on the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch. And it also actually runs really good on Nintendo Switch as well. Which, let's be honest, Nintendo, not a lot of your third-party games do. So, yeah, I can definitely confirm through the research that I found, that Hotshot Racing is one such game that does actually run really nice on the Switch as well. Another one, 60 FPS, brilliant, perfect, well optimized game studios that worked on this, so well done, you did good. So graphics aside, right, what's the main reason you play a video game? Well, to play the game. So let's talk gameplay. Now, like I said, don't judge a book by its cover with the graphics. It's a game after all, and you're here to play it. So aside from that, you may notice that I've been throwing the words arcade or arcadey around when describing this type of racer. You see, anyone familiar with racing games will completely understand why I'm using that term, arcade racer. But once again for a second, and I did this in my first review when I explained ray tracing, I'm going to break things down for the newbies of this video and go into detail about the three, well I found three, there could be YouTube videos where people have found more, and go more in depth with it, but again, you can do that research after watching this review, that's entirely up to you. But yeah, I'm going to break down the three types of racers I've noticed, give my sort of definition as to what they are, just to break it down for the newbies. Again, anyone who's familiar with gaming or racing games in general will already know what I'm talking about, but just stand aside for a second and let the newbies listen in. Okay, so with that being said, once again, these are my definitions. They may not be entirely correct. I'm going to try and make them sound as correct as possible. Again, there are way better videos out there that can explain this stuff. So yeah, YouTube's got you covered. Go look there if you want more in-depth analysis as to different types of racing games. But anyway, let's move on, I'm rambling. The three types of racers that I have found are arcade style, simulation, and kart racing. Now, what arcade style implies is, if you at least think about it, it kind of makes you think of, well, arcade machines, right? Going into an arcade, sitting at one of those big plasticky arcade booths with the racing wheel in front of you, the game right there on a massive screen, you put your money in, you play, and you play on some pretty fast speeds on some drifty tracks. You know what I'm talking about, right? Surely people who've played in an arcade may at least know what I'm on about. But rather, what this translates to with home gaming, arcade style racers, they're usually known for being fast paced, as I stated earlier, but being more liberal with their physics. So the physics aren't exactly tuned to what cars feel like in real life. No, not at all. Again, they're more liberal, more loose, and what that basically means is really drifty controls. No joke, an arcade racer is often noticed by the racing community for being a really drifty racing game with brake to drift mechanics where you power slide round corners and try and keep your top speed, but again, using drift a lot so that you can weave your way around some pretty tough roads. This is in stark contrast to the second style of racing game, simulation. So, simulation, well, the names again imply what they are, right? Simulation is to simulate racing in a real vehicle, in real life. So, simulation racing, they don't have the wacky physics, the drifty controls. No, instead, they are more grounded, more, again, realistic, so that you really feel like you're driving an actual car. And although arcade racers make you think of holding a racing wheel, again, being on an arcade machine, I highly encourage actually playing simulation racing games with a racing wheel and pedals. Funnily enough, I do have some, but for the PS4 and not the Xbox, so unfortunately I couldn't use them in this review. I'll talk more about that later though. But yeah, simulation is definitely one that is more akin to real driving. Again, I highly recommend using a racing wheel, pedals, even a gear stick if you can. You can go and buy some for the PS4, Xbox, and even PC, and they definitely suit that sort of gameplay style, as again, it's to try and feel as realistic as possible, so it's like actually hopping in your car and going out for a race. And then there's the third style, the silliest one of the bunch, kart racers. Now come on, we surely are all familiar with a good kart racer, right? But for anyone who isn't, a kart racer is basically a racing game with wacky characters sitting in some bombastic looking go-karts, going on some silly tracks in their universe depending on the kart racer. And yeah, they're normally recognised by the racing community, again, by the art style, the characters, but mainly the use of power-ups, because most kart racers, if not all of them, will have power-ups in some shape or form to really make them not only feel like a racing game, but also a party game as well. Like I said, those familiar with kart racers should know this stuff. I mean, maybe you might have already played a kart racer. I mean, if I was to say games such as, I don't know, Mario Kart, Crash Team Racing, do those ring any bells? Or why don't we get a bit more obscure? What about Diddy Kong Racing? Remember that one?
Remember that one?
Or Mod Nation Racers? What about that? Little Big Planet Karting? Doesn't tickle your fancy? Okay, how about Garfield Kart? Well, what's wrong with that one? But there you go, newbies. Those were my 3 definitions of the different types of racing games. Again, anyone who already knows this stuff, let's welcome them back into the video now. Maybe I'll leave a time code for them to skip this part. But yeah, those were my definitions for the 3 types of racing games. And so with all that being said, which one does Hotshot Racing fall into? Well, safe to say, if you've been looking at the gameplay, this is definitely an arcade-style racer, if you haven't heard me say it enough already. In terms of mechanics though, what does Hotshot Racing really add to spice up the arcade-style formula? Well, sadly not a lot. When it comes to arcade racers, like I said, drifting is key. And here you do get some really pesky yet precise corners that you need to drift around in order to maintain a good sense of speed so that you don't drop your position. Yes, Hotshot Racing is literally an arcade racer to a T. Now granted, your experience may vary as there are a lot of characters and cars to choose, so again, depending on the character or the car that you choose with them, as each character has 4 cars and they're completely customizable by the way, yeah, your results may vary as to how you feel about the controls of this game, and the controls will definitely feel different with each type of character. In terms of the customization, you can swap the colour palette and a few of the parts around. I felt that this was a bit lacking though. There wasn't too many colour palettes that really tickled my fancy with some of the cars, and all the changing of the cosmetics are purely, well, they're cosmetic. They do not affect the stats of the car in any way, shape or form. Again, I didn't mind the customization. I did use it on a few cars I really liked, but again, it was pretty lacking. And in some cases, kind of also pointless, as with the low polygonal art style, swapping out parts like the bonnets, the side skirts, and the spoilers, I don't know, just didn't really need to be there. It kind of clashes with the art style. See, in more realistic racing games, it kind of makes sense, right? You're changing parts of the car. In fact, most of these racing games will use real-life cars and real-life customizations you can add to those real-life cars. Hotshot Racing, the cars in here are kind of all made up, so, I mean, some of them look realistic, but again, I just didn't see the point in adding in this sort of customization. Again, I don't mind swapping the colours around, maybe swapping a few of the parts like the wheels, and yeah, maybe adding a spoiler. But yeah, things like adding little parts to the bonnets or the side skirts just felt didn't need to be in there. Aside from that though, when the game is actually in motion, I will say this is a very good game that's easy to learn but hard to master. See, when I actually played it the first few times, I kind of got a bit frustrated. It took me a good few attempts, at least on the first track of the game, just to even get well suited to the style of play implemented in this game. Again, I had to sit through the menus for a good while, pick the character I liked, pick the car I liked, and then do that first track over and over again until I finally felt comfortable with the controls. And then once I did, things were pretty smooth sailing. Speaking of the cars though, it's also key to note that you can pick between manual or automatic transmission in your vehicles when playing the game. Now when I was playing this, I was using a controller because like I said, I don't have a racing wheel for the Xbox, only for the PS4, and I was not playing the PS4 version of this game. But I didn't pick the manual transmission, mainly because I didn't remember or kept forgetting what the buttons were mapped to change gear up or change gear down. So yeah, I highly recommend that if you're using a controller, just stick with automatic transmission. Don't go for manual unless you're actually using a racing wheel and pedals. And who knows, maybe if I do a follow-up video when I do play this game with a racing wheel, I'll let you know if manual's any good. But for now, I stuck with automatic. I can imagine manual feels like playing an actual arcade racing game, and again, using a racing wheel and pedals would do, but yeah, controller players, just stay away from manual. Now at first, I felt the drifting was a bit out of control. Like I said, easy to learn, hard to master. It took me several tries of the first track to really get things down, but I tended to use each lap to sort of try and learn the layout of the road, and then I would sort of make keynotes in my head as to when to drift, when to boost, and in all honesty, I feel like a lot of other players will end up doing the same as well. So like I said, with any arcade racer, you want to try and use the drift as much as possible so that you don't lose too much speed. Hotshot Racing is no exception to this. This game has a brake to drift mechanic, so that literally as soon as you hit the brake and start turning whilst doing so, you will initiate a drift. In this game, drifting will fill up your boost meter, which is separated into little sections like squares. What this basically does is so that you can't spam the boost all at once. You basically have to fill one slot up, and then once that slot is full, you can then initiate a boost. There's also a bit of a cooldown between boost slots. So what I mean by this, for example, is say you have 2 or 3 full bars of boost, you can't just push and hold the button and use all 3 at once. No, rather you tap the boost button, use one slot, then you have a little bit of cooldown. It's about what, like I'd say a couple of milliseconds, maybe even 1 second altogether. Then you can push the button again and use the next slot of boost. I really like this, in fact, because I feel like it made you have to strategize when to use your boost. And again, you couldn't really spam it all the time. And like I said, when it came to learning how to play this game, I started to plan ahead what roads I would use the boost on. When to boost, when not to boost. What I tended to find was that it was really easy to sort of use the boost on straightaways, use the boosts on certain corners, again this may vary depending on your playstyle, and again using the boost to correct mistakes, say if I had a collision with one of the walls, or the many crashes I had with the AI, and trust me, you will have many crashes with the AI racers in this game, my god. Okay, so the AI, right, the artificial racers. They weren't too bad. Granted, the rubber banding varies a lot in this game, especially depending on the difficulty. Now, see, I flip-flopped between normal difficulty and hard difficulty, and I tended to find that with normal difficulty, the rubber banding wasn't so bad in the sense of the racers caught up to me really easily, but once they were in front of me, they were dumb as rocks, like they didn't know what to do. Are rocks even considered dumb? Who knows? Anyway, they were dumb as all hell. They didn't really know what to do. And so at that point, it was just a case of holding onto my boost, boosting past them. Because yeah, once one of them passed me and I wasn't in first place anymore, they didn't know what to do. They just sort of went with the motions, sort of waited for me to overtake again so that they could overtake me. That was my experience on normal difficulty. So I started playing on hard. I wanted to see what the difference was. And one thing that the game doesn't actually tell you is that the speed in which you race is actually locked behind the difficulty. See, take for instance games like Mario Kart, right? Mario Kart shows you the speed first and doesn't tell you the difficulty. Well, Hotshot Racing does the opposite. Rather than picking what CC you race on and then having the difficulty scale from that, no, you just really pick between easy, normal, hard, or expert. And yeah, you notice that the speed is quite different. I certainly noticed it, because after a few races on hard, I went back to normal just to see how it felt, especially for comparing it for this review. And yeah, things felt a lot slower. Like, I don't know what it was, but things just felt, yeah, a lot slower in the races. Definitely races felt a bit longer. Safe to say though, as you get more used to the game on hard difficulty, you'll start to adapt as well as the speed. So you'll definitely get a lot faster with your reaction times, and again, you'll start to plan ahead when to use the boosts and how to get around corners, and again how to manipulate the AI, which, yeah, once you start to do that, not too bad. Yeah, hard is definitely way more worth playing if you want a bit more of a challenge, but I wouldn't be surprised if you use normal just to at least figure out the mechanics of the game, because like I said, it does take you a while to figure out the mechanics of this game. Mechanics in this game just appear to be different slightly overall. Let's take, for example, the boost start, right? Now, this works differently in all kinds of racing games, and so yeah, it's going to be different here. See, in Hotshot Racing, you have to rev your car and sort of keep the bars in the yellow area. Get them too high and you'll end up stalling the car and smoking out. Get them too low and, well, you just won't boost, or you won't even move at all. And then you'll have to try and play catch up once the lights go green and the announcer says go. So, yeah. I didn't mind this. I actually kind of liked it because you kind of had to keep the car within a certain rhythm in order for you to actually launch properly. This is way more engaging than what some other racers do, where you just hold down the accelerate button at the right time. Again, I'm going to reference Mario Kart here, but we all know that trick, right? Where you hold down the accelerator just at that right number, and then boom, you launch off, and it just, at that point, it just becomes too easy. No, with Hotshot Racing, it definitely mixes things up a bit by making you have to, again, learn the rhythm. Easy to learn, hard to master, and again, I really like it. Other mechanics also include the fact that you're not just racing the AI half the time. In fact, at the top of the screen, you have a timer, and as you race through the track, you'll have an announcer announce checkpoint as you pass, well, a checkpoint. That is one of the systems in this game. You have a checkpoint system. What this basically does is it encourages you to keep on the move. Hotshot Racing doesn't want you to stay still whatsoever. I mean, hell, why would you? It's a racing game, right? Staying still for too long or running out of time from too many mistakes and not reaching a checkpoint will result in you not finishing the race and losing the race entirely, being marked as DNF, did not finish. Again, I really like this. It kind of reminds me of Ridge Racer on the PS1. Now, I reference that game not because of where I've played it too recently. I mean, the last time I actually really played it was in our 2.5 Gamers game testing video where we actually did try out that game. But like I said, Hotshot Racing harkens back to these sorts of racers, and this mechanic is definitely a callback to one of those types of games. Arcade racers in arcade machines do it as well, but again, the one that I could think closest to mind on console was Ridge Racer for the PS1. And I really like this, making the racer keep on the move, and it also really helps in multiplayer as well, right? Because say if you're playing with someone and they're getting too frustrated, they throw their controller down, they're like, I don't want to play anymore. Well, rather than having to wait, which some racing games actually do make you wait until everyone's crossed the finish line, all 3 laps, no, instead, Hotshot Racing will count them down. Once they're timed out, that's it. They didn't finish the race, DNF, they lost. Done. Move on to the next race. And again, I really like this mechanic. So with all these elements at play, right, as you start to get better, win races, just what are you even racing for? Well, that's where the story comes into play. Right, so now on to the story of the game, Wait. Oh wait, yeah, what am I doing? This is a racing game. This doesn't have a story. I know some racing games do have a story mode or career mode, but unfortunately with Hotshot Racing, that's not entirely the case. The closest thing we get to a story in this game is you do get a few cutscenes after you beat races with a certain character and get first place. You get a little cutscene that plays at the end. Kind of reminds me of what arcade fighting games do, like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, you know, those sorts of things. When you beat arcade mode with a character and you get a little cutscene of where they are after the arcade mode. Well, yeah, Hotshot Racing does the exact same thing as well. So, yeah, I guess on that note, not really much of a story we could talk about. So I guess instead, I know, we'll talk about game modes. So, you've got the standard fare, Grand Prix mode. We're all sort of familiar with this in the racing scene, but again, for those who don't know, Grand Prix is where you select a cup, each cup having 4 tracks, and you race through trying to gain points by keeping a high position in each of the races, all 3 laps, just to come first place overall and win that solid gold cup. Again, this is standard racing fare, right? Everyone knows this. You get first place, you get more points. You get last place, you get no points. Standard stuff. Now I should note that the version of the game I was playing was called the Big Boss version, which actually did include an extra cup. I can't speak for anyone who played this game at launch, because I can imagine that at launch this game didn't have this Big Boss DLC added. But yeah, the version I played was called the Big Boss version. It had this DLC which had an extra cup called the Boss Level, which adds 4 more tracks, but no bosses however, which is a damn shame. But yeah, 4 more tracks on an extra cup called the Boss Level. It wasn't too bad, but like I said, I don't know if anyone who reviewed or played this game at launch probably didn't touch on this. The version of the game I played had this DLC on it. I don't know if you have to pay for this DLC or if it was just a free expansion, but still, it was cool to have at least an extra cup to race on. But yep, Grand Prix is as standard as it seems, so yeah, let's talk about something else. The other thing that's pretty standard in racing games as well, time trial mode. And this game certainly has that. Once again, standard. It is literally you race it on a track, you can then pick a staff ghost to race against to try and beat their time as you try and get basically the best time you can on a track. Now, I'm not going to lie, these staff ghosts, well, they're the developers of the game, and they're really good at the game, so safe to say, looking at my footage, no way I'll be beating them anytime soon. Again, I didn't really invest that much time into trying to learn how to beat the staff ghost. Once I just got first place in all the Grand Prix, I consider that gameplay good enough. Yeah, some time trials are more engaging and I do try and beat them. This isn't one of them though. Again, it was fairly standard. One thing I did like was that in this time trial mode, you do get a full boost meter. Kind of reminded me of when you get 3 mushrooms in Mario Kart's time trial mode. Again, you sort of use it strategically and yeah, try and use it to get the upper hand. And sometimes when you watch the staff ghost, you can see when they're using it and what sort of corners they drift on. And again, you just keep playing until you eventually beat the staff ghost. Standard stuff. Now the next game mode is where things get interesting, but I've got to say, this game mode would really be a lot better to play locally with friends, or even online. Unfortunately though, due to the time of when I'm recording this review, I could not record any local multiplayer footage, which is a real shame. Again, it's just due to the way things are in the world at the minute, so unfortunately I could not record any local multiplayer. I miss having friends over. What about online, right? Surely we can record some online, except, Okay, so online was pretty dead. Not gonna lie, at the time when I was recording, I was really surprised. There was literally hardly anyone, in fact, not even anyone, playing online. I did give it a few attempts, both off and on camera, but I literally couldn't find anyone playing this game online, which surprised me, right? Because I'm playing on the Xbox, and this game is included on Xbox Game Pass. Again, I'll talk more about that when I get into the how you can play this game portion. But yeah, I would have thought that people would have at least given this game a go. It's just sitting there on Game Pass, and I thought the lobbies, at least on Xbox, should have been populated with a few people who at least like this game for the way it is. Like I said, there's a nostalgia for these sorts of games, and I thought surely maybe some people on Xbox would have given this game a go, but unfortunately, nope, nothing. The online was completely dead. Now, I gotta say, this could also probably be because of one of the problems with this game being on Game Pass. See, it's nice that Microsoft at least tried to include this game on Game Pass for the sake of the developers. Who knows, maybe the game didn't do too well sales-wise, so Microsoft probably thought, hey, you know, we'll chuck it on Game Pass, see if that sparks up any interest. The one big problem, though, is Microsoft, you kind of helped, but you also didn't, because on Game Pass, there's also other racing games out there that you can play. Again, you can get the 3 Need for Speed games, 2015, Payback, Heat, you can play them on Game Pass, and not only that as well, but 3 of the Forza games are on Game Pass, so yeah, Microsoft, you really did try to help, but you also kind of didn't, because you've put all the competitors for this game on Game Pass, as well as this game on Game Pass, so yeah, you kind of shot the devs in the foot at the same time, because yeah, anyone who has Game Pass, they probably gravitated towards those games, and that's a real shame, honestly. It sucks, man, honestly, to see this game go to waste. Now, I can't speak for the online communities of, say, Nintendo Switch, PS4, or PC. Like I said, I only played and recorded this off of the Xbox, more on that later, but I did not invest into double dipping to play it on any of the other systems to at least test out the online there. Maybe other reviewers did. You'll definitely have to look at some other reviews, maybe when they played closer to launch, but at the time of me reviewing this, yeah, I couldn't play locally, I couldn't play online, and it was just overall a bummer, man. It really sucked. Again, it was a shame though because of this game mode. So let's talk about it. The game mode is Cops and Robbers. Now, again, I really feel like this game mode would have worked really well with multiplayer. But even with the AI, it was pretty fun too. That's why I really liked it, and that's why I'm encouraging it the way I am. So, the premise is basically this. You race around the track, and each checkpoint you go through gives you money, right? So as a racer / robber, you have to just keep driving as best as you can and try and avoid the AI cops. Or if you're playing multiplayer, your friends may be the cops. Who knows? Again, I didn't get to try it. Now, the cops are going to ram into you like nobody's business. And once your health hits 0, that's it. Just kidding. No, it's not. You actually become a cop as well. And then at that point, the tables turn. You then start going after the other racers. And this is where it gets really cool. I really enjoyed this mode. The stress of avoiding the cops, especially as a robber, felt really good. It's just like doing a race, but again, with the added pressure of avoiding the cops. But the other cool thing as well is the fact that, yeah, turning into a cop, it doesn't feel like the game's over. Because every racer you ram into when you are in cop mode still gets you money. So even once you do lose all your health as a racer and you become a cop, you still technically have a chance to win, as once you start making arrests, you start getting more money. So yeah, it never really feels like you've lost, even after you become a cop. Yeah, it's a real shame I didn't get to try out this mode with any friends. See, I used to host these game nights, right, before everything went down, and I definitely feel like, given the chance, I would have hosted one and probably would have put this game on and we would have played a bit of Cops and Robbers and probably would have had a really good time doing so. So unfortunately, I couldn't play multiplayer with this mode, although I really encourage that if you can, or when you can, you do, whether it be online or locally. Who knows, maybe in a less restricted future, I'll get my buddies round and we'll actually give this mode a shot with some local multiplayer. Now on to the next mode. Now, this mode at first I thought was kind of bland until it got near towards the end, and then I actually really wanted to keep playing it. The mode I'm talking about is called Drive or Explode mode. So basically, in this mode, what you do is you race around a track, typical in a racing game, I know, right? But you race around the track, go through each checkpoint, and you can't let your car drop below a certain speed, and you have to keep that speed up. Now, as I said, you go through checkpoints, but each checkpoint you go through raises the speed limit of which you have to keep above. So, once you pass through a checkpoint, it could be that your speed limit that you have to stay above is 70 miles an hour. Pass through another checkpoint, it goes up to 100. Pass through another, it goes up to 150, and so on. What this basically means is that if you dip below that speed limit at any point, boom, you explode. So, yeah, drive or explode. It's in the name. Like I said, at first I thought this mode was pretty bland, but then I just kept going with it and it got more exciting as the speed went up. And one thing that definitely adds to this is the stressful music it plays when you're actually doing this mode. So each time that the speed limit went up or you got even close to nearly blowing up, the music, right, I don't know what it was, but the music just ramps up, man. It just, it feels really good.
Time for action.
Like, as I got more and more into it, I started getting closer and closer to the edge of my seat. My heart started pounding. That freaking music kicks in. And I don't know what I felt. I don't know if I felt nervous. I don't know if I felt excited. Just whatever I felt really good. So yeah, as I got into it, I really liked this mode. Like, it was just, yeah, I even find myself smiling just thinking about it. It was a pretty fun mode, to all things considered. Sadly though, the last mode I'll be talking about, wasn't too much to be desired. And if anything, I feel like it kind of contrasts what sort of racing game this game is. I'm talking about Barrage. Now, Barrage is basically just you race with a health bar, 3 laps or more, you can choose how many laps you want, and every time you pass through a checkpoint or cross the finish line, you get explosive barrel power-ups that you can drop on the track to get in the way of your opponents and basically lower their health, with the ultimate goal being that you want to take them out, right? You know, last racer standing, or just if you're in first place and you don't die, pretty much that, right? Again, I found this mode pretty boring. It's just racing but with power-ups, and like I said, that kind of contradicts what this game is. Like I said, this is an arcade style racer. We defined this in the gameplay section. This is an arcade racer, and now all of a sudden you're giving me a mode that makes it a kart racer? What the hell? Yeah, I wasn't too keen on this mode. I played it the once, and yeah, that was it really for me. It didn't really excite me in any ways. Not as much as the last 2 modes I talked about, especially Drive or Explode mode. But yeah, no, I weren't feeling this mode, man. It clashes with what the rest of the game really is. Okay, so if anything that I have said, or anything that you've seen whilst watching this review, has sort of tickled your fancy into Hotshot Racing, well then, let's get into this section of the video. Again, this is my style of review. I like to talk about this sort of stuff, but that is how you can obtain this game. Now, once again, I could not find a physical copy for this game, so this is another one, unfortunately, for you collectors out there who want something to at least slap on the shelf. Yeah, because say if you were just going to buy this game, right, just to at least have it on your shelf in your collection physically, unfortunately, once again, there is no physical copy, so yeah, Hotshot Racing will not be sitting on your shelf anytime soon. This game, however, is only available digitally on PS4, Xbox One, which is the version I'm running off the Series X, PC, and Nintendo Switch. And again, the Switch version actually runs pretty good too. I mentioned that in the graphics section. I played the Xbox version, which is what you're seeing right now. I did mention this before, but I'll go into it again. Like the Medium though, it was because I found it on Game Pass. However, I didn't get it just because I saw it on Game Pass. Okay, so let me elaborate more on this. As I said in the Medium, getting it on Game Pass day one when the game launched was definitely a good idea for that game, right? It was certainly a horror game that if it wasn't on Game Pass, then I would have waited a very, very long time, maybe even just for a sale, just to play it on, right? But I gotta say, with Hotshot Racing, I don't feel that way at all. I definitely think that this is a game that, regardless or not of it being on Xbox Game Pass, or even if I didn't have the Xbox and I wanted to get it on PS4, PC or Switch, I definitely would have looked into getting this game. I really liked it. So yeah, unlike the Medium, where it was just the sake of, oh, I played it day one because it was on Game Pass, whereas I probably wouldn't have played it day one if it wasn't, yeah, I gotta say, the only reason I didn't play Hotshot Racing at day one was just because I didn't know about it at day one. Whereas the fact that it's on Game Pass or not wouldn't really change my opinion of it. I really would actually go out and buy this game. And in fact, the asking price, at least in the UK anyway, I can't speak for other countries, again, I'm sorry, but the asking price isn't even that bad. Decently priced for an indie game. Again, you can probably wait for a sale, PC players especially, because where the game is on Steam, there's always a good bunch of sales, so you can definitely wait for one of those and then pick up the game. But even then, console players too, yeah, you could wait for a sale, but I'm not gonna lie, that's not a bad price for a game like this, really not. So if you have the money spare, why not give it a go? I mean, it's pretty cheap. Just overall, right, I just have to say, yeah, I definitely didn't mind the price. I most likely would have paid it had I have noticed the game sooner. But again, just due to utter coincidence really, I get the Series X, I see it on Game Pass, I figured, hey, that looks pretty good, let's play that game. So that's exactly what I did. Again, I probably would have played the game even if it wasn't on Game Pass. I keep saying that over and over again. That's just because I really did like this game. But more on that in the conclusion, right? So in conclusion, I really liked Hotshot Racing. I mean, what can I say? It was really fun. Again, took me a few tries just to get used to it. Newcomers may get turned away, but please, I'm encouraging you, stick with the game, learn the mechanics, try and basically get good, and you will definitely enjoy what this game has to offer. Again, I may not feel as much nostalgia for these types of arcade racers, but I do still really like them, man. So I definitely, yeah, have to say this is one that I really enjoyed, and I feel like a lot of others definitely will as well. And it's just a shame as well that seeing people turn away from this game just for the art style, it's just, yeah, it sucks, because not seeing those online lobbies being populated or not hearing a lot of people talk about this game is a real shame, as I feel like it is definitely one of the hidden gems of the generation. Although it's kind of awkward, right, because it came out in 2020, so is it a last gen or is it a current gen? Actually, no, who am I kidding? It's a last gen because it's on Xbox One, PS4, yada yada yada. But still, the fact that you can play it on PS5 and Series X definitely at least add something to that. Or if you want to play the game on the go on the Nintendo Switch, that's also good too. I'm just saying though, whatever system you play it on, it's still worth playing. I really liked the game. I really liked the art style. Again, I think the retro style graphics speak volumes for people who, again, have nostalgia for those sorts of graphics. But even then, the gameplay alone is good enough. Like, again, move the graphics aside. Just gameplay, again, it is really fun, easy to learn, hard to master, so you'll get your money's worth trying to learn and figure out this game. Don't let it turn you off, don't let it put you away from any of these sorts of arcade racers. It's really fun, and I really liked it. I tell you what, in fact, I'd love to see this game get more updates. Like I said, I was playing this version that had the DLC. I hope there's more DLC. I want to see some more cups. Yeah, maybe that could bring the online community back, right? It's always good when the developers continue to support these games after launch. And well, it's only 2021. Not even been a year since the game was released. Like I said, August 2020. So who knows, maybe by August 2021, a 1-year DLC maybe? Just some kind of expansion? Maybe a sequel, Hotshot Racing 2? Whatever it is, I would just love to see the developers support this game more so that the players can also support it as well. It just feels like a game that needs more attention out there. And so yeah, for crying out loud, Xbox players, I mean, come on. The game's on Game Pass. It's sitting right there. You're already practically paying for it anyway. Give it an install and play it, will ya? I'd love to see you on those online lobbies. But even then, in particular, to other people playing on other platforms, yeah, give this game a shot. I don't know how many more times I can say it, but I did enjoy this game. I feel like some will, I feel like some won't. I don't know, maybe you'll just have to let me know in the comments if you do try this game, whether you liked it or not. But I can definitely tell you guys, I liked it. I really liked it. So, yeah. Okay, so there you go. That was my review of Hotshot Racing that I played on the Xbox, but as I mentioned in the review, that you can get on pretty much everything else this generation. I'd like to thank you all for tuning into this review, the second one, guys. So again, show this one as much love and support as you did the first one. And if you haven't seen the first one, and because you're jumping into this one, go back and watch the first one. Again, a lot of love went into that review, and people were showing a lot of love to it. So make yourself one of those people, go show love to that review as well. As for my next review, don't really know what I'll look at next. Again, we're still sort of trying this out. We're sort of seeing what we can do. As you can see by my lovely new backdrop, we have a lot of games we could talk about. As I did say, I am a video game collector, and so are the other two, so if there's any games out there that even they want me to review, I'll be glad to do so. Hopefully the audio quality was a bit better. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I did get the pop filter, so here's hoping that the audio does sound better. And again, this review wasn't as complicated, or at least I don't feel it was, as my medium review. Future me in editing will know if this video ends up being more complicated, less complicated, based on how long the video is as well. But I just felt it'd be more fun, right, to jump into an easy racing game. I love racing games, by the way. So figured I'd make that my second review, make it a nice simple one, just to, again, get another review on the channel and just keep things going. So once again, I hope you all liked it. Here's to hoping for the next review. I'll probably look at something else a bit different, but you'll just have to stay tuned for that. How do you stay tuned though? Well, you should know by now. Subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, join us on Discord. I'm in the Discord, so if you want to talk to me about this review, or any games you want to see me review, jump down there, at me on Discord, say, hey, I want to see you review this game, I want to see you review that game. Granted, if I have it, I'll review it. So, yeah, we can only really go up from here. Once again, thank you all for tuning into this video. So, whether it be a stream, another review, a games room tour perhaps, any video, whatever it may be, you'll see me, or when you see me, and I'll catch you in the next one.